The East India Company had already established its supremacy throughout India. There were no strong kings or nawabs who could pose a challenge to the marching of the East India Company. The mighty Mughal dynasty had already collapsed, and there was exploitation of the Indians everywhere. This resentment took the form of an rebellion. When People Rebel is about India's first war of independence, and you need to know majorly the causes and the result. The causes were economic, political, social, religious, military, and like always, there is always a triggering event which causes the main event to take place. The East India Company followed a policy of annexation that led to the displacement of a large number of rulers. You had the doctrine of lapse, the subsidiary alliance, and due to this, the Nawabs and the Rajas they lost their powers to the company and they felt helpless. Even the residents who were stationed there interfered in the working of the rulers and looked after the interest of only the East India Company. The rulers lost their powers, the peasants were burdened with taxes, and they easily fell into the clutches of the moneylenders. The artisans had to leave their traditional work and migrate in search of employment. As their patrons, the Nawabs and the rulers no longer wielded the financial power as they did earlier. The sepoys were not treated equally. Their promotion was only up to the rank of a subedar. Thus, you see, all the sections of the society were badly affected. The rise of the moneylenders added to this oppression, and the new land revenue measures pressurized the people further. The company rule affected each and every section of the Indian society alike. It left the people impoverished, and the economy of the Indian people, as well as the princely states, was totally ruined. The British were bleeding the Indian economy dry. It was also expanding its territorial rule. Leaders like Rani of Jhansi, Nana Sahib, were unhappy as their rule was being destroyed slowly by the company's policies. Similarly, the annexation of Awadh on grounds of misgovernment also happened around the same time. There were many social reforms also taking place, which were not acceptable to the people. For example, the legalization of widow remarriage, banning of sati, which of course were good steps but were not accepted by the then Orthodox society. A major religious cause was the conversion of Hindus and Muslims by the Christian missionaries. Heavy taxes were levied on the lands belonging to temples and mosques, which was discriminatory. New laws were passed to make conversion to Christianity easier, which allowed an Indian who had converted to Christianity to inherit the property of his ancestors. A major chunk in the East India Company's army were Indians basically, but these Indian sepoys were paid less and were not given the same facilities as their white counterparts. The immediate cause, of course, was the use of the Enfield rifle. Its cartridges had to be bitten off by mouth before it could be loaded on the rifle. Soon the news spread that the grease was coated with pig and cow's fat. This enraged both the Hindu and the Muslim soldiers. The first soldier to rebel against this was Mangal Pandey, and he was stationed in Meerut. He was hanged for his disobedience. Mangal Pandey was hanged on 29th April 1857 for attacking his officer. And on 9th May, sepoys at Meerut were imprisoned as they refused to use this Enfield rifle. And on 10th May 1857, army sepoys they released the sepoys and killed the British officers. Thus began the Great Revolt. Sepoys then captured guns and ammunition and they marched towards Delhi. The sepoys stationed at Delhi garrison also welcomed them, and British officers were murdered. The victorious sepoys they declared Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India. However, Zafar was unwilling, but he blessed the rebels and appealed the rulers to form a confederacy against the British. The rulers of some states saw this as an opportunity to settle their scores from the company and rose in revolt for the redressal of their selfish aims of regaining their territory from the East India Company. Rani Lakshmibai rose in revolt as Jhansi was annexed under the doctrine of lapse. Nana Sahib was the adopted son of Peshwa, also revolted from Kanpur as he was not recognized as the successor of Peshwa. Begum Hazrat Mahal also revolted from Lucknow in favor of her son Birjis Qadir. Gradually, dissatisfied zamindars, peasants, and people also supported the revolt. By 1859, British regained control over the rebels, and Parliament put an end to the East India Company rule in India. Causes of failure of the revolt were that the revolt did not embrace the entire country. In southern and most of the western Indian states, it could not start. A large number of local zamindars and Indian princes did not join the revolt, and it was also not supported by the educated Indians. The rebellious soldiers lacked modern weapons and other materials of war. The organization of the rebellion soldiers was weak, and the modern concept of nationalism had not reached India at that time. Several native states like Holkar, Sindhia, Sikhs, Gorkhas also did not support the rebels. It brought about the end of the Mughal rule in India. The rule of the East India Company also came to an end, and the British Crown took over the control of India. Historians believe that this was merely a small time revolt which was led by a group of sepoys. On the other hand, some historians believe that it was more than just a sepoy mutiny as it had a large mass base. But whatever may be their opinion, it was indeed a great event.